Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. This is FPL Insight. I'm Gianni, the FPL guy, and he's Dean Jones, the FPL or football insider. Dean, we'll soon put FPL in front of your name at some point.
Maybe in a couple of seasons, mate, when I'm actually good at this game. Yeah, just because I've been playing it for a long time. I'm not sure I deserve much credit for my FPL performances recently. But look, Salah saved me the other day, so I was happy with that. Ended up with a half decent score, not as high as you, but it definitely dug me out and did well in that second week for a lot of people, didn't it? Second game for a lot of people.
Yeah, for all those that captained Salah but didn't triple captain Salah, they missed out on 28 free points, and I was one of those. We've got some show coming up, and it's obviously past the deadline, which is quite different, and I'm quite excited about because those that are watching will be watching knowing that they can kind of relax, they've done what they've done, can't change anything now, and we're hopefully going to talk them into what they had done as very good decisions, or maybe a few will be thinking, oh, what have I done? Gianni and Dean are going completely off here, and they're saying I shouldn't have gone with Sterling or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to obviously be looking at the features we do every Friday, fresh off the press. We've got Pep Roulette, where we do our predicted 11s of the big teams against the obvious when we sell you a player that's template and tell you why not to pick him. And then we'll obviously be looking at our teams and strategies as well. So yeah, it's some show coming up, and we've obviously got a big game coming up tonight to kind of kick the game week off. And we've got Southampton and Norwich. It's nice to have a Friday night, Dean. Are you a fan of the Friday nights under the lights?
I am, yeah. This one's doesn't sound too glamorous, does it? But it doesn't really matter what it is. I mean, I think sometimes it's these ones that kind of provide more entertainment. I mean, obviously Norwich fighting for their lives right now. They've got to go and get a result out of this match. I don't personally see it at all. I think that Southampton are looking good, and I think that Southampton are going to be too strong for them. Maybe I'm saying that because I'm absolutely desperate for Brozier to deliver for me this week. Like, I keep thinking it's going to happen, and last two game weeks particularly, like, other people have stepped forward and scored goals that I was hoping he'd have been getting. But yeah, it's a big night. I'm sure a lot of people have actually got Saints players in their lineups.
Yeah, I look at that and think those that have sort of gone for a free hit, you're going to definitely be covering Southampton. And Norwich look like a team that are pretty much down. And we can see at the bottom of the screen, we've got team news here. And I guess the big news is for those on a free hit, Livramento and Walker-Peters start, the fullbacks of choice. And then Brozier starts as well. And of course, Ward-Prowse. Like, they're the four names people were looking at, I guess, when looking to free hit. And Walker-Peters is one that's really surprised me in recent weeks. I didn't quite know, Dean, that he was that good, and he really is. Like, he's very attacking, and he's very good in front of goal, and he's got a final ball. I rate him quite highly, and I thought he was average before.
Did you? Yeah. He's really good, and I think it's a great place for him to be as well at Southampton. It's a place where he's going to be allowed to fulfill his potential. And I think it's a great place for players of his level to take a step back and just go for it. It was a really good move for him in terms of his career prospects. And yeah, there's a lot of FPL players that have been jumping on him. I mean, he's one of those players that you ride him for a few games and like he's getting you points, but then you often jump off for a bit because often Southampton's form just doesn't stay consistent. But Walker-Peters is definitely somebody that could deliver for people tonight, especially if he's providing an assist, maybe even for Brozier.
Yeah, exactly that. And when we look at the Norwich team, there's no Adam Eder up top. It's Sargent and Pookie. Those two do work fairly well together. I mean, if they get a goal tonight, they'd have done very well. Many are banking on that Southampton clean sheet. He's gone Aarons and Williams and Brandon Williams, of course, as the wing backs or full backs. Gilmore's back in the team and has been for the last couple of weeks. He's not really settled at Norwich, Dean. Did we think Gilmore was going to take to that team, or is it more a case of that it's the team that's not functioning, not the player?
It doesn't really suit him, to be honest. I mean, I think he needs to play in a team that's seeing more of the ball and allowed to conduct play a bit more. I think he's struggled. I mean, look, a lot of the season he wasn't even in the team until they changed manager, so he's had a tough time himself. I think it'll be good for his character, but next season, I think there's a very strong chance that he'll be with Frank Lampard up at Everton. So let's see if that ends up panning out for him. But yeah, he's always a good one to watch. That Norwich team, it doesn't convince me very much in attack anymore. I had high hopes for Sargent coming in, and I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's going to be the guy that you can rely on for goals.
Yeah, we'll have to touch base on Sargent at some point, because I know you've got a bit of an American following, obviously from your time at Beach, and I'm guessing you've watched him quite closely.
Yeah, I watched him quite a bit, and US soccer fans, I'll say, have had high hopes for this guy as well, and they've really expected him to come through. And I think there still is hope, but they're just not sure how high the bar is here to expect him to push on. But he's still young, still got a long way to go. And maybe he'll prove me wrong tonight. Maybe he'll get on the score sheet and give Norwich a win that they are absolutely crying out for.
Exactly. I'd like to see that. I'd love to see Norwich, really, really make a fight of that kind of relegation scrap, because at the moment they look dead and buried. Guys in the chat, those of you asking questions or saying hello, do ask questions. We will get to them as much as we can. Mohammed's saying soccer. He's having a laugh at Dean using soccer, not football. Well, yeah, look, why not?
That's the name. It is actually the real name of the game, isn't it? People bring this up all the time. Like in England, the most successful football show I've had is called Soccer AM. Like I don't know what to say.
Fair point. Guys, make sure you give us a like as well if you are watching. The more people that like it, the more people that see the channel and can jump on board and interact with you guys in the chat as well. But first up, we're going to have a look at our first feature, which is Fresh Off the Press. The big news this week, Dean, just has to be the free hit, doesn't it? Usually we'll use this feature to talk about injuries and team selection. We'll do a little bit of that. But the free hit template is strong and it is happening. I did a poll recently on Twitter. Seems like about 60% of FPL managers that are kind of enthusiasts that are on FPL Twitter, they're free hitting this week. Like, the world and his dog seem to be free hitting. I can see completely why. And I think there's a huge upside to it. I'm just hoping those free hit players don't go crazy. Those City midfielders, the double Spurs. What's your take, Dean? Have you got many of these players covered? Was it ever sort of on your radar to free hit this week?
No, you know how bad I am at planning, mate. You've only been chatting to me about it for a couple of weeks, and you've already learned that I don't look ahead enough, and it's my big downfall in this game. I'm too interested in the week-to-week stuff, and even if I do, it's only by a couple of weeks. I panic on free hits, and like I've already gone. Like I went at I don't know if it was the wrong time. I think it did actually save me at the time, but I'd love to have had it this week. I really would. I mean, just looking at the kind of players that people will be going for a free hit. I mean, typically, quite a few people will have Burnley players. There's two in our lineup there, me and Weghorst. I mean, some people might even go for, I don't know, Dwight McNeil or somebody like that. Like, there's other people in there that you might consider. Ultimately, like the City lads, Sterling and Mahrez. Mahrez, I think, you got to go for him. Now he's on pens as well, it looks like, doesn't it? So I think Mahrez is almost your go-to guy at Man City at the moment, especially this game week because he was rested last time around. Harry Kane, I'm not too sure, mate. I'm not too sure. We'll have to see about whether Kane can deliver again. That is a good team, though. Like, if people are hitting that team this week, then you're in for a good week, I think. Brozier, obviously, we've just been talking about him tonight. Really is time for him to step up again, because he was talked about during that January transfer window like he was Messi or Ronaldo. Everyone suddenly wanted him because he was in a good run of form, and he is a very good player, but he's got to be consistent. If he wants to actually hit the heights that he's being spoken of, he's got to deliver. So let's see if he can save some people in this free hit.
I mean, in the last couple of shows, I've compared Weghorst to Drogba and Brozier to Haaland. So, these guys have got something to live up to here. I love the free hit team in the respect that you can get so many premiums in it because you don't have your Salahs and your Trents. So, there's 4 premium midfielders there. Kane as well. You've got Cancelo too. It's just full of premiums. And I'm hoping my team that we're going to see later, I've got 11 players out, but when you're benching the likes of Salah and Trent, you just don't get that quality or that price point in your 11. So I need City to have a quiet one. My thinking is with free hit, if you go 15, 20 points up, you've had a good free hit. You kind of want to make 20 points if you can. Yeah, so if I can get away with 15 under par, I'll be happy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for people putting City players in as well, you're just hoping for a reaction from them, aren't you? I mean, and that's the fear for those of us who haven't got any Man City players, particularly Man City forwards, because there's always the potential that they can go and hit 5 or 6 in a week like this. That when they go for it, they can absolutely batter teams, and that'll be the fear this weekend for some people like myself who haven't got Sterling and Mahrez in their team, but. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see which Man City turn up for this one, because there have been game weeks as well, when they play quite well, but they only score 1. And there's some weeks when they don't actually play that well and they score 4 or 5. So we'll have to see what Pep delivers.
I'm looking forward to later in the show when we've got Dean's suggested 11 of Man City. So stay tuned for that. Because if we get a bit of rotation, it'll be brilliant for those, me, not on a free hit. And with Jesus and Grealish back training, you never know. We've got some questions coming in the chat as well. Luke wants a Bruno mega haul. Yeah, I can see why. And those that have held on to Bruno probably there for 1 week, knowing he's got Watford. And then you're probably looking at that fixture run and thinking, I'm going to ditch him. But Bruno against Watford looks tasty, especially at Old Trafford.
It does, yeah. I've got a feeling United are going to just attack in this game and try and put this one to bed. I mean, Watford, I tried to build them up the other day, didn't I, on this show? And I was like, they're going to be counter-attacking. They'll suck teams in and they'll hit them on the break and Sarr's back. And this is what Roy Hodgson does. And they got absolutely battered by Crystal Palace. And I think on the back of that, Ralph Rangnick will look at it like this United team need a morale boost. And people like Bruno can absolutely deliver. He's guaranteed to play, isn't he? I think there's a couple of players in that United team that aren't guaranteed to play in this game week. I think Rangnick will mix it up a bit this week, which is going to complicate things. And I think a few people will get caught out in certain positions on people they've put in. But Bruno won't be on one of them. And he could definitely deliver.
Yeah, I'm hoping he doesn't. I hope there's a bit of a hangover from the European game midweek on that long away day to Madrid for United. Nuclear Atoms is with us. Hello, Nuclear. You're all the way in Bangladesh, I think. It must be late there. Must be very late there. What are the topics today since the Gameweek 27 hasn't started yet? And yeah, it's a good point. So, I mean, coming up, we're going to be looking at our projected 11s of some of the big teams. That's a very big feature of this Friday show, whether it's pre or post deadline. And then we've got a cool feature, Nuclear. I don't know if you've seen it before, but against the obvious, where we pick some of those template players and we tell you why you shouldn't have gone with them. And then, of course, we're still looking at our teams and talking chip strategy. In this section, fresh off the press, just want to touch base that we did think that in game week 28, Chelsea and Arsenal might get a confirmed double game week by today. That hasn't happened yet. It's very unlikely to happen now with Arsenal. It could still happen for Chelsea and Norwich to get that double game week. And we'll know more after the cup games in the middle of next week. Nuclear said, I brought in Sancho for Bruno to afford Sterling. That's a tough one, isn't it? Many did have to make that move. Sancho's hitting some form though, Dean.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sancho is actually the most informed player. He's more informed than Bruno Fernandes is right now. So I think that if you had to switch United players, and that's a great switch to make, and bringing Sterling in, I think is reasonably safe. We'll talk about Man City in a bit, and a couple of the fear factors that there will be in terms of Pep Roulette this week. But yeah, I think that is a nice one. I think Jadon Sancho is looking really good. And I think that there is going to come a time very soon when Sancho notches a couple for United in the same game. He's looking like he's getting a taste of it now. Some of the positions he's getting in and some of the goals he's scoring, very similar to how he was at Borussia Dortmund. And even some of the ones that aren't quite coming off, I can see exactly what he's thinking. I'm glad that he's finally getting the recognition he deserves. And I think United fans are going to be excited about what comes between now and the end of the season. I see Mohammed asking about Anthony Elanga as well. Indeed, with him as a dancer. And yeah, we'll be talking about United's projected 11, predicted for what I think they'll be doing. And yeah, it'll be interesting to have that debate as and when we come to it.
Yeah, did you see that song? Did you see the video of it? The Elanga, the rhythm is a dancer.
Yeah,
was. I don't like United fans often, and United are my least favourite team. I talk about it quite a lot, but I saw that and had a little smile and thought, yeah, I'd quite like my club having that tune.
They're very good at chants. They've got a good system of how they bring out chants and stuff. And United's away following is particularly impressive. Their supporters and the pubs that they meet up in and stuff to come up with the songs, they get them out into the stands very quickly. So yeah, it's a good. Whoever came up with that one, genius.
Desira's not on a free hit and done what many have done that aren't, is taken a hit. And I'm all for that. I don't mind taking a hit this week if you're getting more players out. And I think he's gone for players like Mahrez and KWP. Well, KWP start, so good news there. But coming up next, guys, and before we do that, please do like and subscribe to the channel. I know loads of you in the chat, some are subscribers, but some aren't. So please do subscribe, and then you'll always get that notification when we go live. It's every Monday and Friday at 7 p.m. UK time between now and the end of the season. But coming up next, we're going to be looking at some of the big teams starting 11s with Pep Roulette. Pep Roulette. And we've got we know most weeks Man City will feature in this when they have a game. Of course, we're going to talk about them, but we're also going to be looking at the starting 11s of Spurs and United as well. But let's start with City, Dean. How do you see them lining up?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I guess confused me most coming into this one, it was Pep's comments about Grealish and Jesus. So that's at the back of my mind right now. I honestly, like last week, I said to you, I don't really see that City will make a change here. And I think they made one, didn't they, last weekend? And it was Mahrez that came out.
Yeah.
Gundogan started, and Bernardo moved into a more attacking position. So I wasn't far off with that. It was kind of what I was told would happen. And again, I'm told, like, don't expect mass rotation on this game week. So I'm not, and you can see that from the predicted lineup that I've gone with. I do think it's possible that one of these will be wrong, and I think that if I just don't understand, like at this point, how fit Grealish and Jesus are. To be honest, I don't see Grealish starting anyway. I don't think he would start him. Jesus, I can see that Foden might be taken out. It wouldn't.
You
Totally
give him 60, would you? You potentially get Jesus 60, yeah.
Yeah, and I can see it. He's got a good record against Everton. He's good at the press. Sterling, I know that Frank Lampard really, really likes Sterling and hates playing against him. So I think that Sterling will play in that game anyway. Mahrez, I don't think you can leave him out for this one. So that's the thing I'm wondering right now, most of all. Look, there's always the possibility that Gundogan starts again as well. But from what I understand, I say not mass rotation. So this is what I've gone with for now.
Dean, you got 30 out of 33 last week. That is good going, considering we're talking
across the three, it wasn't bad, was it? Yeah, I mean, look, the ones I was caught out on last week with Liverpool's fullbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, there was half a chance, and I thought about putting Tsimikas in instead of Robertson. Didn't, but Gomez. I mean, someone actually mentioned it in the chat, didn't they? They said, "What about Gomez?" And we kind of laughed at them. So apologies to whoever that was at the time. You were absolutely spot on. Didn't see that coming at all, but Klopp played it really well, and he got away with it. I'd say, like from resting those players by turning that game around eventually. But yeah, I was reasonably happy with that. It's tricky. It's very tricky in predicting lineups. I remember when I used to be doing shifts on newspapers, and your job would be to predict every single lineup in the Premier League.
Oh God!
And it was like, this is a hiding to nothing. Like, I can't do this. Leave me out.
For criticism straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Well.
Yeah. City defense, and FPL River asks about Laporte. I mean, they conceded a fair. What was it? 3 goals against Spurs? Was it 3-2 that football match? Yeah, I think it was. So they conceded 3. We don't often see that from Pep teams. There will be a response. Sure, they've had a week of training with no midweek fixture. Could he look at Laporte and Diaz and go, you weren't good enough, I'm going to give John Stones a run out? And FPL River asks that very question. I mean, do we think Everton have got a chance of scoring regardless, right?
Yeah, I think Everton can score. I don't think John Stones will start instead of him. I just don't see it at the moment. Look, there was a time not so long ago when John Stones was firmly in the picture, was get his form right back to where he was. And there's been times when Pep Guardiola seems to really love him. And I think he loves having him in terms of depth in that defence. Not sure. I mean, obviously, there's the emotional attachment too in terms of Everton. There's that. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, though. Like, is that what John Stones needs right now to play against his old club, the team that he left so much money? Is it embarrassing for him to be on the bench? Which is worse? I'm not sure, but I haven't gone with it. So I'm taking the hunch that that defense is staying as it is for right now in the centre.
Yeah, FPL River, I would say if Laporte is probably the safest of the 3. And yeah, sure, a couple of months ago, we'd say Diaz is absolutely the number 1 centre-back of that club. But if you look at recent times, I actually think Laporte might even be number 1. Pep does this. He has his flavour of the month, doesn't he? And as he said, it was John Stones. I think at the moment, until last week anyway, it was Laporte. We saw Diaz left out of the big game recently. I can't remember when it was. Mohammed asks, even Everton get battered 5-0 or nick a 1-0 win. If they nick a 1-0 win, that would be quite something, Dean.
It would be something, but look, I can't see it, but from what we've seen at Everton so far under Frank Lampard, and we've talked about it on here, they are much better at home than they are away from home. If this was at the Etihad, then I would be expecting a 5-0 probably. As it is, City are going to have to work very, very hard to get this win. I do still expect them to get it just because this is so important to them. They cannot afford to lose, not on the back of Liverpool closing the gap like this, because the whole thing suddenly turns upside down. And Liverpool, if they lose at the weekend, the Liverpool are favourites to win the league. And they can't afford to let that happen at this stage. So it'll be very interesting to see just how many they win by, to be honest. Is it going to be a 1-0 to City, which I do think it's a City win, or can they get that early goal that then allows them to go on and make it 2 or 3?
Yeah, that early goal would be key. P23836. Come on, dude. We're on first name terms here. Is it Peter? Let us know. He asked, does Gianni think Foden will start? I mean, yeah, I think I do. The only slight issue in my mind there is when Foden's been naughty at weekends with Grealish and co over Christmas, we saw he was benched a couple of times over that sort of festive season. Now, I don't think Foden's done anything wrong last weekend at the boxing. You may have seen the clips, but knowing his family and potentially him were involved in a scuffle, I just wonder if there's any sort of discipline there by Pep. I hope there isn't, and I hope he starts, but we know Pep will discipline the likes of Foden if he needs to.
Yeah, and it's another reason to, if he's talked up Jesus like he did today, he did talk him up quite a lot. That did make, the more I read those quotes, I was like, this does sound kind of like he's throwing him in. And if it is, then I think it's at the expense of Foden.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Let's move on to Spurs. 11 with Spurs should be a little bit easier, but is it, Dean? Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much as you were. Reguilon, I'm told, will come in for Sessegnon. Reguilon hasn't been in 100% condition recently, but I'm told he is now back and will come in to start this game. Yeah. Sessegnon, I think, is kind of almost being used as a scapegoat at the moment in this Tottenham team at times. I feel a bit sorry for him, but I am told that he is very likely to be left out of this team. Bentancur is not going to be playing, and I'm told that Harry Winks will start this one for Tottenham. And those will be, as it stands right now, the only 2 changes that Tottenham will be making to their team for the weekend. Obviously, they're not going to tinker too much with this. They can't really, because they haven't got the depth to do that. And yeah, pretty much as you'd expect, if those 2 were missing, Bentancur and Sessegnon, then Reguilon and Winks. I think Reguilon's probably better than Sessegnon anyway, I'll be honest. Like, I like Steven Sessegnon a lot, but Ryan Sessegnon, Steven Sessegnon's his brother who plays for Fulham. That's why I'm getting them confused. Ryan Sessegnon. But yeah, this is a big game for Spurs. And Conte, I'm concerned a bit that he's losing his mind. I mean, the guy seems like a bit of a madman, doesn't he? He's all over the place at the moment. I don't know what his end game is here, unless he's desperate to leave.
It's not a surprise though. He's got a history of this in Italy. He falls out with boards straight away, early doors, and he has these demands, these unrealistic expectations sometimes.
Yeah, it is exactly that. I mean, Tottenham were never going to back him super heavily in that last window, and if they were going to make big investment, it's always going to be the summer. I think he's still disappointed with what he got though, and I think he's still using it as an excuse. I think that was his point the other day when he was like having his meltdown after the game. I think that was part of it. They're like, this squad's not good enough. But he's also trying to blame himself. It sounded literally like he just wanted them to sack him so he could just go home. But they're like, no, we're not paying you out, mate. Like, this is your job. Fix it.
Yeah, that's what you paid to do. I do think he succeeds nuclear atoms. I do. I think it's going to take time and another transfer window for sure. Does he get top 4 this season? That's the $1 million question. And you look at Arsenal after winning last night, and there's a bit of momentum there. Arsenal United are still the 2 favourites for me, and then Spurs are in the mix. But what do you reckon, Dean? Who gets it?
I still think Man United, you have to back that United just get that 4th spot. Arsenal, I mean, I read a few match reports today on the back of that game last night. Everyone was going mad about them and talking about the feeling and the sounds at the end of what it meant to the club and what it proves about how far they've come in terms of character. And I understand what they're saying, but I'm still not convinced by them. We saw what a bad start they had to this calendar year. They tend to have good runs of 5 games and they have a bad run for 5 games. So I'm just not convinced that they can keep this up for the rest of the season. So I just think United will get that 4th spot, even though they're not too much better.
Yeah. And finally on Spurs, before we move to United 11, Luke asks about Lucas. And yeah, I mean, from Dean's 11, I think it probably will be Kulusevski, and I'm with you, Dean. I think I agree on all of those picks tonight from the 2 teams we've seen so far. But Lucas has missed the last 2. Kulusevski hasn't had a huge amount of game time this season in terms of successive starts. This would be the 3rd in a row. Could we see Lucas or Bergwijn come in?
I'm told not to expect them. I made this check call in late last night and then double checked this morning, and The guy that I checked with is usually pretty spot on, and he doesn't seem to expect any more changes than those two that I've mentioned. So, yeah, unless something happens between now and kickoff, I would expect both those two to not be in the starting 11.
That would be good for free hitters because a few have gone for Kulusevski as a cheaper option to Son. 6 million. I see the thinking behind that.
Yeah, totally. That's a good one.
Should we have a look at United? Because again, like there's a Langer in there at the expense of Rashford. I'll let you talk us through it, and I see why you've gone there.
Yeah, man, this is the one that caused me the most headache, I think. And I tried to check with a couple of United reporters, and it's obviously really difficult as well on the back of the Champions League game to know where United are going with this. But the general feeling was that Rangnick probably will make quite a few changes for this game. I mean, It's a home match against Watford, a team that United really need to go out and put to bed quite early. United typically don't do that. We know that they can only play well for half an hour or 45 minutes. But they really need to have a good start to this match, and I think play on the front foot, and that's kind of reflected in this lineup that I've given. Look, there are a couple of 50-50s. Telles and Luke Shaw, I think, is a 50-50. And like you say, a lot of people will be like, really, Elanga going to get the nod? I think he will. I really think he will.
I do.
There are times when managers come into clubs and they take someone on as their little project, and look, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it goes brilliantly. And for Rangnick and Elanga, what a relationship these two are having. It's going brilliantly for the pair of them. I saw Rangnick talking about watching YouTube videos of him in his own hotel room. Like he loves the guy. And I think on the back of that goal that he scored in midweek, confidence through the roof, Old Trafford chanting his name, you've got to play, a time when United haven't had that much going for them, haven't had many players in good form. Yeah. You've got one here, and no matter how raw he is, how inexperienced he is, you've got to play him, especially in a match like this against Watford. So I do think Elanga will start. What do you think, mate? Is there anything there that you think might be different?
No, I think you've called it. Like the guys that came on in the week, Telles and Elanga both did well. And it's not just about how good Elanga's been, it's how poor Rashford has been. This isn't a guy that you want to be starting football matches at the moment. He looks way short. All over, every part of his game looks off. And the fullbacks are interesting because we saw Lindelof right back in the week, saw Wan-Bissaka before that. But I'm with you, Dalot has to come in. And the only reason Dalot missed out on those two games was the fear of conceding and going with a more defensive approach. Well, Dalot at home against Watford will be encouraged to get forward. He picks up those Cancelo-style positions. Actually, he's drifting inside, and they need him on the ball. And, Wan-Bissaka, you just don't want crossing the halfway line. So Dalot and Telles for me, and I think Elanga. And it would have been Cavani, I think, off the back of so many Ronaldo games. But, he's still not returned to full training. So Ronaldo's
not ready. No, to be honest, I thought this team, I sent to you guys after United's press conference, if McTominay was better, I would have put McTominay into the lineup instead of Fred. I think McTominay would have been picked for a game like this. But obviously with him not there, there's not really any other options to play in the midfield. So I've stuck Fred in there. But yeah, we'll see. But certainly a game that United could really do with producing a convincing win.
The three best budget midfielders in the game are Ramsey, probably number one at Villa. Sure, he's been brilliant and he's nailed for 90. Gordon's playing front three, still sub 5 million. That's nice. And we think he's going to keep in the team. As long as he's doing well, it's his place to lose. And then it's Elanga. Like these three guys are all explosive on their day, especially Gordon and Elanga. We just need to know Elanga is nailed. And I think, he starts this week. We just don't know moving forward. But if he keeps scoring goals, he'll be very hard to drop, even for Rashford, right?
Absolutely. He's definitely one of those people that you have to consider at this point. And because the thing is with Elanga, we've seen that he can have an impact off the bench. So it doesn't even really matter whether he starts the game. Like, you might miss out on a point or two from actually not starting and playing a long time. But if somebody's coming on right now for Man United to change games, it looks like it's going to be Elanga. So a very, very key figure, especially while they stay in the Champions League as well. And they've got to use the depth of squad. It'd be very interesting.
Guys in the chat, let us know where you're watching from in the world. I mentioned Nuclear Atoms is in Bangladesh. Just write one word in the chat. I want to know the country you're in. I'm just very interested to know how many of you overseas, how many are in the UK. So do write your country in the chat and we'll give you a shout out. But coming up next, we've got Against the Obvious. I love this feature, Dean. We've chosen one player each that are both popular picks. This feature is always taking a popular pick and or a template pick and telling you guys why not to buy them or why you shouldn't have already bought them. And guys in the chat, Desira's in Indonesia, good to hear it. Luke's in Kent in the UK, nice. FPL Rivers in the UK as well. Nuclear Atoms did say it's 1:30 a.m, so it is late. Are you staying up for the football tonight, mate? Muswab's in Kenya. Awesome. Good stuff. We'll come back to those, but first we're going to look at our players we shouldn't pick. And I'll kick us off, Dean.
Yeah, go for it, mate. Yeah.
With Raheem Sterling, like, I can see why people have gone to Raheem Sterling, but I really don't see this pick. And sure, everyone that's buying him are on a free hit, and I get why you go for a Man City midfielder. But if you want one Man City fielder or two Man City fielders, I go for the absolutely nailed starters in that midfield. And I just think KDB, of course, is a nailed starter. On his day, he can get points. And yeah, he hasn't returned in the last two. And that's why people aren't picking him, because we look at last week's points all the time. Well, forget that. KDB's the main man in that team. And against Everton, there could be loads of space. The back line Everton are going to put out tomorrow, it's going to be frail, and KDB, I think, will exploit that. So KDB's better than Sterling, but also Mahrez, like the guy's on pens, he's considerably cheaper, and I think he's even more nailed. So for me, if you're looking at Man City midfield, you spend a little bit extra and go KDB, or you save a whole load and go Mahrez, possibly even Foden. But yeah, for me, Sterling's not the one, and I don't think he'll get... I'm pretty confident he won't get 90. Sure, he's likely to start, but the guy comes off quite often, Dean. What do you reckon? Would you be going Sterling over those two?
I do like Raheem Sterling generally, and in FPL there have been times when he's actually really dug me out of holes, because a lot of people don't tend to get on him because they don't trust him, and sometimes he does go on streaks, but I'm not seeing it at the moment as a go-to pick. I agree with that. If you're going to pick him or Mahrez, you do now pick Mahrez because of the penalty factor, and he is the most informed forward they've got. The one thing I would say is that Sterling does have a habit of surprising people. Yeah. He does, turn up some performances every now and then that you're just not expecting, and could put games to bed by himself. So I'm always hesitant to write off Raheem Sterling. But like you say, like if you've got a choice to make right now, then he's probably not your guy.
Nuclear Atom says, is KDB worth it extra money? And I think it was about 3 weeks ago, he had a double-digit return. And then a few days later, everyone was bringing him into their teams. And yeah, sure, he's blanked in the last two. But back then, he was absolutely seen as worth the money. The player hasn't changed. He's just been in a team that hasn't been performing that well of late. And of course, he's had some blanks. But for me, like, you look at KDB and you just think, yeah, form temporary, class permanent. And the guy is a very good FPL option, because we know he starts and we know that team will score goals, and he's more often than not involved. Luke asked about Mahrez. Has he got more chance of scoring a hat-trick compared to Sterling? Sterling, of course, did get the perfect hat-trick not long ago. One was a left-foot tap-in off the back of a missed penalty. Mahrez generally gets the bigger points hauls. Yeah, Mahrez, I think, is, in terms of points per minute, is head and shoulders above every other Man City player. Obviously, he rarely plays 90 and doesn't start every week like some of the others. But for me, Mahrez this week, knowing he was rested last, penalty appeal, he's just standout option, Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that we've kind of established that he is the penalty taker when he's on the pitch, it just seems silly not to back him, because City will get a lot of penalties between now and the end of the season. Like, I know we're just talking about not picking Sterling, but typically he's the guy that's going to be winning the pens a lot of the time. So there's always that to bear in mind as well.
Yeah. Who have you got for us, Dean? Who shouldn't we pick this week that's a popular one?
You shouldn't pick Harry Kane. And for a starter, the guy is not delivering for the value of player that he is in FPL. I mean, his goal return this season is just not up to it. 7 goals and 2 assists from 23 Premier League games for Harry Kane. If you've stuck with him all season, you've been just hoping, because there's been no logic to keep Harry Kane in your team this long. And now I know that we saw a game last weekend in which he put in a 10 out of 10 performance. That doesn't matter for FPL. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the points are worth the same. Yes, he was good for that one game, but you look at the games around it, and Harry Kane has not been delivering. The 3 matches before that Man City one, he played 90 minutes against Wolves, Southampton and Chelsea and didn't score. Plays 90 minutes against Burnley since then, doesn't score. Now, I know he's playing against Leeds, and Leeds have conceded like 16 goals in their last 4. I just think with the style that Leeds play and the chaos that there is, it might be that Kane drops off a little and it's actually Son who's getting into the behind and collecting the big points in this match. I think that Harry Kane is just a guy right now that in FPL terms, you just can't rely on like we have in every other season. And if you've brought him in right now, I think it's a bit of a gamble.
Guys in the chat, let us know if you're on a free hit and if you have Harry Kane, or perhaps you've gone Son, or perhaps you've gone both. Nuclear says, talking trash about Kane, you got some answering to do with Sam Bonifield, who is, of course, part of FPL family and a big Spurs fan.
Cheers,
She captains Kane every week, pretty much.
I think so.
Look, I hear where you're coming from, Nuclear. I'm a Kane believer as well. Dean says he hasn't been getting the points, and he's absolutely right, he hasn't. But in terms of the eye test, Harry Kane did blank against Burnley, but he also hit the crossbar. He did put in a big performance and got double digits against Man City. I just hope he's turned a corner. But I am slightly concerned that when I see that Leeds game on paper, I just think, like Dean said, it could be a Son game. This is late midfield runners, Son's pace. Will Kane come and be the number 10 and be feeding balls through to Kulusevski and Son? Probably. We do know Leeds are going to be committing those numbers forward. So I do think Son will find some space.
Part of me is also wondering if for the first time, Bielsa actually is like, I cannot continue to play this brand of football because we are going to be relegated. Like, I have to, at least for 45 minutes, shut up shop and make sure we're still in a football match here. Because if they lose to Tottenham 3 or 4-0, like they are just sliding towards the Championship. They're in horrible form right now, Leeds, and they really need a morale boost. So I do also wonder whether they're just a bit more resolute in this fixture and might just try to frustrate Tottenham a bit.
Yeah, possibly. It's going to be an interesting watch. I'd love to see Bielsa take a slightly different approach to a football match. And yeah,
I don't think he's got it in him, but let's see.
The threat of relegation can do that.
Can.
Sugar Benders in New Zealand. Love that. Guys, we are in Kenya, New Zealand, and all over the shop. I'm very happy to see that. Indonesia as well. And of course, Bangladesh, and in Kent as well. Glad you're with us too, Luke. Guys, I hope you are all subscribed to the channel and liking the channel. Please do just hit that like button. And also, feel free to drop a comment. But also, loads of you are on FPL Twitter. I recognize some of these names. If you fancy tweeting about the show, we really appreciate you kind of casting that net slightly wider so more people can see us. This is a new channel that we want to be recognized. Luke in the chat, I think you may have posted up on Twitter last week. So thank you for doing that. Feel free to screen grab and tweet the link during the show, after the show. That's much appreciated. Nuclear says Bielsa will never change his philosophy. Yeah, probably not. But that threat of relegation can do funny things to a man.
It really does do strange things to people. So you never know.
Nayan says it's 110 in India. Good stuff, Nayan. Mustafa asks, yeah, commitment there. Is Salah the greatest FPL asset of all time, or is it recency bias? Anyone in the past comes close to Salah hauls. There was a time when Aguero was hitting
gotta be Aguero, yeah,
close numbers, but I don't know if Aguero ever showed that consistency. Probably because he got injured more than Salah.
Well, the problem with Aguero as well, because he was a forward, he didn't get the same points, I guess, as Salah as well. So that would be something that Salah's had over him. But I mean, early days FPL, Aguero was. I remember there was probably 2 seasons in a row when everybody had Aguero just captain everyone. It almost ruined the game. I know in our mini league, I remember having a debate with people shall we ban Aguero from the game? That's how ridiculous it got. And I've never had that debate about Salah, so maybe it's a bit different.
Yeah. Oh, Leo says, first time watching this, Dean from Ranks FC. It is, in fact, the Dean from Ranks FC. Yes.
Hi, Leo. Nice to see you, mate.
And thinking back to other assets, and we'll move on now. But yeah, Aguero was one, and Van Persie, the season when he left Arsenal, went to United, they won the league, and Rooney was just to Van Persie. I think it was 13.5 million, worth every penny. Yeah. Let's see who we've got in our teams coming up next. Forget Mourinho and Pep. You've got Gianni and Dean's team coming up. And first up, we've got Dean's team. Dean, I'm pleased to see you've still got a Chelsea defender, because this is going to work quite nicely for you, I think, having a Chelsea player when not many have. I know they don't play this week, but they're about to go on a good run. So you've got what, 10 men out this week. You're hopeful you'll get all 10 of the, well,
Well, I
without
got 9,
Salah,
I think, haven't I?
9.
I've got
Yeah.
9, yeah. So that's why I brought in Roberts, because he makes up a bit of that. So he makes up for a man. So he's got 2 games. So that's helped me a little bit there. So look, it's not a brilliant team. It's okay. I'm not full of optimism about it. But yeah, I looked at it and I thought about the idea of taking Rudiger out and taking a hit and bringing in someone else. But like you say, I looked at the fixtures and I was like, this is so silly. And like, I've done this before because I do react, but because I hate having low points tallies one week, even if there's a chance for bigger one the next. I just hate getting a lower score. But then I'm like, well, once I take a -4 here, and then where is it leading me? Especially if I'm going to want Chelsea players coming up. So I decided to stick. Mount the same. Like, Mount hasn't even been figuring much for Chelsea and up to now, but I still think Mount is going to be worth having in my squad. And Jota, I can wait and see. Like, it sounds like his injury is not going to be too bad, so he might even be back soon. And Trent. So I think, like, overall, I'm still quite happy with my squad. I just need someone to deliver. I mean, I've actually set Brozier as captain, so I've just done that before the deadline. So El Yanusi will not be the captain, despite him having the vice there. This was not the team that actually went to the FPL. But yeah, so it's okay. Like, I'd need a good start. So yeah, if El Yanusi and Brozier can deliver tonight, I'll be very, very happy.
If Southampton deliver, it's a huge night for you because you know if they score goals, Brozier, your captain, plus Elanusi are going to be involved. So yeah, fingers crossed for you there. And they've got a chance. Luke says interesting going with Elanusi. I'm going to ask you about that in a sec. But just a shame you can't play Foster out on pitch, isn't it? You'd have got that 11th man out if you could have played Foster in the Salah role.
I think you should be able to. I really think you should be able to. Like, there should be like you should get like half the points that you would normally get, but be able to put a goalie like into midfield or something. Just so you can field a team.
Those 3 chips that we can see on screen haven't changed for about 3 seasons. And I just wonder if FPL will be changing the chips in the not too distant future, or maybe adding a chip or making it a little bit fun. They've never gone, I think, 4 years without changing anything. So expect some stuff next year. Maybe we'll see that.
That'd be fun.
Nuclear says, why did you keep Jota? Use his funds to take advantage of the situation. I mean, you're obviously loyal to Jota and you've seen that Liverpool have got that double game week in 29 and you just don't want the effort of selling him and then bringing him back, I guess.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it wasn't going to help me enough. Like, I wasn't really sure like how I would invest the money. And like, I was looking at like the players that had double game weeks and stuff. At Burnley, like, Weghorst wasn't an option because I had 3 forwards that were playing, so that took him out of the equation. And I was looking at Burnley midfielders, and there was nobody that I was like counting on. And beyond that, like, who could I really have brought in that I could guarantee would make this game week worthwhile? I just couldn't honestly see anyone that, beyond having Jota back in when he comes. I don't think Jota's injury, from what I understand, is going to be that bad and keep him out for that long. And if it is, then I'll just take him out for the next game week. So yeah, bit of a gamble, but that's what it's all about.
FPL River, what new chip would you want added? Ooh, that's a tough question. I've got so many options here. I'd probably go with something that allows you to change your captain mid-game week. I've always thought would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd love that. Like, you can either, I don't know, you can put your captaincy on someone on the Saturday, and then should you want to take it off and give it to someone on the Sunday because they blanked, I'd quite like that. I think we've never seen that before. In Sky Fantasy Football, which I don't play, they do have that role, that chip every week.
Oh, do they?
And yeah, I think it's always quite fun because they can captain someone. If there's a Friday night game, they'll have the captaincy on Brozier tonight. If he gets 10 points, you might stick, or you might twist and go for someone tomorrow. So
yeah,
you have that ability to change every single day of the game week, I think.
Yeah. I'd like to see like an auto sub thing whereby like you could choose, like, if your captain hasn't scored by half time, it automatically switches to your vice and that takes over. I'd like to see something like that. Nice. You know what that feeling's like, and it's such a gamble because who knows what's going to happen in the second half, but that would be fun.
That would be really good. Yeah. Let us know in the chat what you think. Any options for new chips? FPL River, I want to know your take on this. So do whack it in the chat. Shall we have a look next at my team?
Yeah, I want to see yours, mate.
I didn't use the free hit, which was a very popular shout this week, but I don't think I needed to. Let me know if you think I did, Dean. But I've got a couple of doublers in Ben Mee and Weghorst there. So I've got my double Burnley. I don't have triple, but I've got 2. I have actually given the captain's armband to Weghorst. I did swap it. So it's Weghorst captain, Kane vice captain.
Yeah.
I just always like to back the 180 minutes. Like, fair enough if it was
100%.
he only needs one goal, and then even the minute points, and he's still, I think, against Palace and Leicester, Weghorst has got a good chance. Both teams are rubbish at defending set pieces as well.
Yeah, I think I think Weghorst will score 2 goals over the course of those 2 games. Like, I think that's fair to say he'll score 2 goals. Whereas, can you back Harry Kane to score 2 goals at the moment? Like, I don't know that you can, even though he's done it against Man City. I don't know that you can back him to do that right now because of the format I talked about earlier on. In another time, like if Harry Kane was having a typical Harry Kane season where he's hitting like towards 30 goals, then absolutely, I think you'd be sticking him captain at Leeds away. But I think you made the right decision there. It's a good team. Again, Phil Foden, you'll be hoping that he isn't the guy that comes out if Jesus does start. I mean, there's a few nerves there for you. But apart from that, I don't see you've got too many concerns there. Ben Foster.
This is his last week, mate. I've had Foden since, I don't know, game week 6 or 7. This genuinely is his last week. He could score a hat-trick against Everton, and I still think I'm going to sell him. I'm just committed to dropping him, knowing Champions League is coming up. Grealish is now back fit. Jesus is back fit.
Yeah.
There's double game weeks of which City don't have one. City don't play in that blank in 30. There's just so many reasons for me to sell Foden. So I'm going to be targeting the midfielders on double game weeks. So Elise, Foden will probably go next week with those 2 free transfers. And I can bring in the likes of Rafinha, who will be on a double. Coutinho will be on a double. There's a few options. So yeah, I'm hoping I get one parting gift from Foden because I've been so bloody loyal.
Mate, you've got a full team out and a couple of them have got a double game week, so you're in a very good position with a free hit and a triple captain still to play, aren't you?
I hope so.
So you're like 10th, I think, in the Chasing Green Arrows mini league, aren't you? I had a quick check earlier.
Yeah, I did join that the other day. I'm hoping I get my hands on that PS5, guys. If you want to join that mini league,
you've been allowed to join that late on, to be honest with you. But
if you want to join that mini league, then do check out. The code is in the description at the bottom of the screen. Have we got any final questions from you guys? Sugar Bender says, great chip idea. Play whatever formation you want for 1 week. And e.g. 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 4 defenders, no attackers. Yeah, that would be quite cool. They did have the all-out attack chip a few years ago, which didn't work well, but that did restrict us. It was like you can play a back 2 or something. It wasn't that creative.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you should just be able to pick up your own formation 1 week. That'd be fun.
Yeah. And then that might encourage you to have like always go with 2 playing keepers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the limitless chip from. I don't play the Champions League fantasy or UEFA Champions League fantasy game. I play a different version of it, but they've got a limitless chip, unlimited funds and transfer. So is that nuclear just for 1 week? You can go absolutely crazy, bring in 11 or 15 premium players.
Imagine the team you could fit. That's amazing.
It's sod's law. Every time you use that chip, I bet it just absolutely tanks. It's like, okay, you've got all the premium players.
So scared of using it.
Desira says, still got Edouard, hoping he'll return. Oh, he had 1 minute in the double game week over 2 games. Playing against Burnley, I'd expect Palace to go for Mateta, not only because he scored, but because he'll want Mateta's physical presence at defending set pieces and stuff like that. What do you reckon, Dean? Edouard's not flavour of the month at the moment?
He's not at all, is he? He hit the ground running when he came in, but he's fallen away since then. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure I would be backing him. I'd get him out, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm similar with Elise. He's on his last week, and I just hope he starts against Burnley. Ayew could come in. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Elise will play, to be honest with you. I think you might be all right there.
He's looked good, hasn't he? He's looked really good.
He does look good, and it's tough to know whether he's an FPL player yet. I think eventually he's going to be a real good asset in this game. I don't know if that's right now because he's in and out in terms of point scoring, but he's such a talented player. Because he wants to make things happen, he's going to definitely have some weeks where he gets big points. But it's like a bit like Wilfried Zaha, isn't it? Like he's one of those players that you should get big points from throughout a season, but you don't really because he's so flaky, really.
Yeah. I try to be smart with that pick. Sometimes when so many eyes are on your team, you're just like, I don't want to have that template team because you want to be seen as like, I'm ahead of the curve. Elise was definitely one of those where I was probably trying to be a little bit too cool for school. As you said, good player, but it's like, is he going to be a good FPL option? I'm not sure.
Yeah, totally.
Animations, welcome to the chat, mate. Thank you for asking a good question about Brozier. Should we bring him in there for game week 28? I mean, Weghorst won't have the double. He plays Chelsea in game week 28, and Brozier has a sea of green fixtures. I do think Brozier might be the go-to budget forward in this game, whether it was this week or next. I like that move.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as you say, they've got such a nice run of games coming up. Like I was looking at that when I was I was like, can I stick by Brozier like through this season? I think I'm gonna keep Brozier in for the season, to be honest with you, because he's gonna start returning.
Yeah. Guys, if you want some tips on Game Week 28, then make sure you're joining us Monday at 7. We'll be looking back at the weekend just gone, but looking forward to the weekend ahead as well. Guys, thank you very much for watching. It's been awesome having so many in the chat from all over the world. Please do continue to support the channel by liking, subscribing, but also, guys, if you can drop us a comment, that'd be awesome. Like, obviously, you're commenting in the chat, but forget the chat for a second. We actually want a comment on the video. So if you hit that comment button towards the bottom of the video, just let us know what you think to the show. Like, let us know the features you like most. Let us know if you want any new features. Let us know if you like the length of it. Feel free to ask any questions as well. If you ask an FPL related question, I'll be checking those comments later and I will be responding to them. So ignore the chat now and please do write something in the comments for us so we can look back and touch base with you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, countdown's on. The game's about to begin. Like, I can't believe we've done a show, and it's already. We're going to find out in about 8 minutes how we're getting on. So I'm all on Brozier and El Yunusi for tonight. Going to grab a beer and hope that they deliver for me.
Good stuff. Let's go for Southampton. I'll be supporting them tonight as well. Guys, thank you very much for watching. This has been, of course, FPL Insight, and we've been chasing green arrows. See you later.